Value and exploration to optimize value in exploration and production. And in sports, the Orange FA Cup 5th edition kicks off this weekend with action from the Northern Zone. Interpreting in sign language is Winelo Ntole. Good evening. President Dr. Mokgweetsi Masisi has assured Botswana that the proposed use of identity cards to cross borders between Botswana and Zimbabwe is to be done in good faith and will benefit both nations. He added that although he acknowledges concerns raised by some regarding this matter, such concerns are unwarranted as the process will be regulated based on the law. The president was speaking during the Bi-National Commission press conference in Maung. Compiled the report.
Botswana recently signed an agreement with Namibia to allow citizens of the two countries to use identity cards at the border points. Hot on the heels of this agreement, Botswana started talks with the neighboring Zimbabwe to adopt the same agreement at their crossing points. The president confirmed that the talks are progressing well and are about to reach a climax.
The ID itself, the ownership of, and the permissioning of it becoming a travel document does not positively correlate with influxing, because there's still a filter. What it does is it provides a greater opportunity for more to travel legally. There's still a border that they have to cross. It doesn't mean they use the ID to skip a border. They still become illegal even if they have an ID. You're still an illegal immigrant even if you have a passport valid that was not stamped at the border.
We have decided that Zimbabwe, Botswana, South Africa, Mozambique, we in our region, we have a policy of integration. I don't know what word do you use in Botswana to say integration? In Ishona, integration, kubatana. And kubatana means like this.
As peace and unity are the basis of the bilateral relations between the two countries, President Dr. Masisi implored the citizens to be accommodative of nations, cautioning them that racism could lead to cases of xenophobia.
It seems there's an appetite for migration when some countries are involved and not when others are. And this is where xenophobia begins. When you, my brothers and sisters, develop an attitude, usually without real explanation, you like these ones and you don't like these ones. You decide you want these ones, but you don't want these ones. You break relations down.
It emerged during the briefing that Botswana and Zimbabwe have finally reached a decision regarding the border demarcation at the convergence of 4 SADC countries at the Kazungula border, being Botswana, Namibia, Zimbabwe, and Zambia. Giletleletswe Somolekai, BTV News.
Meanwhile, the two heads of state welcomed the signing of a memorandum of agreement on gainful employment of spouses of diplomatic and consular staff, highlighting solid bilateral ties that exist between Botswana and Zimbabwe.
The heads of state instructed the relevant ministries and departments to urgently implement the signed instruments between the two countries. They further instructed relevant ministries and departments to expeditiously finalize the outstanding instruments by the midterm review of the 4th session of the BNC to be held in Botswana in November 2024. The heads of state noted with satisfaction the expansion of bilateral cooperation in a wide range of sectors and further gave instructions to the ministries/departments on new areas of cooperation.
The agricultural sector, which currently contributes 2% to the country's GDP, has recently been allocated 2.82 billion of the country's national budget. Despite government policies and interventions in place to attain food security, the local food production is mostly hindered by poor rains and drought. Meanwhile, during the Binational Commission Joint Press Conference in Maung, Zimbabwean President Dr. Emmerson Mnangagwa said Zimbabwean farmers are empowered to commercialize agriculture to attain food security at household level, which has proven to be successful in ensuring food sufficiency, a model that Botswana government can emulate.
2/3 of our land is covered in the desert, Kalahari sands, and the rainfall is significantly less. We don't become as successful despite the lacing of the land with the policy and the budget by this brother and others before him. So in summary, really, that's one of the reasons. Of course, if we dig deeper into it, we'll find other nuances. The productivity and the skill level of the people and the attitude towards farming or agriculture and availability of resources. But yes, you know as well as I do that we suffer more frequent droughts than Zimbabwe does. In fact, we've gotten to a point where we accepted that drought is a natural feature of our systems.
It is a vast agricultural land, and generally we have good rains in Zimbabwe. And we have developed a model of agriculture at 2 levels. The first level is that we must have food security at the household level. We make sure the ordinary household has a model of agriculture that gives security at that level. The farmer does not address food security for himself or for herself, addresses food security for the nation. However, in Zimbabwe, we support both. These families, households, we give them free inputs. But the bigger farmer, who does not produce for himself, but for the country, is served differently, is supported differently.
The President, Dr. Mokgweetsi Masisi, says the government will continue to advocate for the lifting of sanctions imposed on Zimbabwe by Western countries. Speaking during the 4th session of the Binational Commission in Maung this morning, President Masisi stated that the sanctions negatively impacted on Zimbabwe's economy, her citizens, and the economies of neighboring countries like Botswana and the region at large.
The 4th session of the Botswana-Zimbabwe Binational affords the 2 countries a platform to renew their relation, broaden cooperations, as well as to find solutions to challenges they face. One of the challenges which the countries aspire to eliminate is the sanctions which have been imposed in Zimbabwe for the past 20 years. President Masisi says the sanctions do not only affect the economic growth of Zimbabwe, but have a negative impact in Botswana as well.
Another matter critical to our bilateral relations and engagements, Your Excellency, is the issue of the unilateral sanctions imposed on Zimbabwe. This remains a concern for us in Botswana and, indeed, for the whole of the SADC region. We will, therefore, continue to advocate, as I now do, for the unconditional lifting of economic sanctions which affect not only Zimbabwe, but have also had a negative impact on development efforts in our subcontinent.
The 2 countries are also challenged by the transboundary crime. Meanwhile, Zimbabwe government has assured Botswana that it is working on a border crime strategy, which is set to manage the situation.
The robust cooperation between our security sectors in managing cross-border crime is commendable. Zimbabwe is in the process of establishing a border management authority towards increasing the safety and the efficiencies along our common border.
The two countries will meet again in July, where they will review progress on the implementation of bilateral cooperation commitments. The July meeting is also expected to unveil a livestock cross-border crime strategy.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dr. Lemogang Kwape, says that livestock rustling between Botswana and Zimbabwe has now developed into a well-organized cross-border criminal enterprise and remains a major area of concern for the two countries. Dr. Kwape urged the two countries to come up with stringent measures to address this challenge. Maranyane Samakata.
Wrestling of livestock along common borders of the two countries continues to rob many farmers of their livelihoods and relegate them to a life of poverty. The minister says there's an urgent need to conclude and sign an agreement action on livestock wrestling, since it has far-reaching implications on both farmers and the economy of the involved nations.
In April 2023, the JTC developed guidelines for restocking as well as the verification and assessment form, which were both adopted by the Joint Ministerial Committee as the tool to use in the identification of eligible beneficiaries. Given the excellent bilateral relations between our two countries, I am confident that our joint effort can effectively eradicate this problem, including its root causes. I have no doubt that our senior officials have come up with some recommendation for our consideration in order to effectively address this problem.
The Zimbabwean counterpart says, though both countries are faced with issues of limited resources, there has been efforts to address the problem.
I note with satisfaction that the joint efforts by the two police organizations and interstate liaison operations have drastically reduced the livestock rustling crime along the border. It is therefore worth noting that even if our resources are as individual countries may be scarce and stretched to the limits, both countries have made sacrifices for the sake of ending this crime.
Minister Kwape assured the Zimbabwean delegate of Botswana's commitment in continuing to advocate for the unconditional removal of sanctions on Zimbabwe. The minister says these sanctions continue to be a hindrance to Zimbabwe's economic recovery, which is negatively affecting Botswana and the SADC region. Maranyane Samagata, BTV News, Maung.
The global demand for critical minerals has presented Africa with endless opportunities to optimize value in their exploration and production. This was one of the key highlights at the just-ended 4-day mining Indaba in Cape Town, South Africa. The Minister of Minerals, Mr. Lefoko Moagi, cited Botswana's prospects in the critical mineral value chain, given several discoveries of such minerals and other rare earth elements. Usidile Unkabetsi.
Africa's rich endowment of critical minerals are in high demand by industrialized nations who are keen on securing them for various technologies and operations. This presents African countries such as Botswana with prospective solid global partnerships which, if fully leveraged, could potentially benefit various development value chains.
We have minerals like manganese that have been discovered in Botswana. And the company is applying for a mining license to start producing the manganese, which they'll process into a high purity magnesium sulfate monohydrate, a component of the electric vehicle batteries. You see, we have PNR also in Pikwe, which will soon exploit the copper, the cobalt, the nickel, the silver, and all the other components. And then we've got a vast number of companies exploiting what we call rare earth elements, platinum group metals, and other critical minerals. And we are encouraging them and supporting them from a policy point, from a legislative framework, such that they can now move quickly from prospecting to production.
The world's largest mining investment conference had numerous takeaways for participating stakeholders, such as the Minerals Development Company Botswana, whose mandate is to expand government's revenues in the mining sector.
Critical areas of HE's reset agenda is value chain development. And it is our view that this is one area where we can actually disrupt the industry, because of the fact that if you look at from history, all the commodity exchanges are overseas. You've got the London Metal Exchange and others. But if you localize it, you then get that price discovery.
Looking at where we want to go as a country, it's important to also look at other service providers who also fit into the ancillary services of the mining sector. It's an ecosystem, so it is very important that as a country, we work together, looking at the whole value chain, looking at strategic partnerships.
For its 30th anniversary, the Mining Indaba recognized 30 mining professionals as the next generation of mining leaders through its Future Leaders Initiative, 2 of the 30 selected professionals being Botswana.
Monumental and also a life-changing transformative program with the UCT, where we learn various aspects of the mining sector, from governance to sustainability, from technology and from policy initiative, and specifically looking at the region, looking at trade.
The Mining Indaba shed light on the need for Africa to optimize the just energy transition narrative and to sustainably derive value from her abundant mineral wealth towards a better future. Utsidile Ongabetsi, BTV News, Cape Town, South Africa.
Still at the 2024 Mining Indaba, BTV News took to some of Botswana's participating stakeholders to appreciate their insights. Mining giants in diamond, soda ash and energy value chains cited one of the biggest takeaways of the fora being the value of implementing positive disruptions as a means to sustainably approach the various mining value chains.
Botswana's participation at this year's Mining Indaba, which drew over 8,000 attendees, has been significant to her value chain development priority. The Botswana's futuristic quest to transform Jwaneng Mine into a highly digitized underground mine with prioritized safety at the core of its operations ties in with the very essence of sustainable mining.
There's been a lot of interest on the Jwaneng Underground project. It's one of the biggest projects in the Southern Hemisphere. So a lot of suppliers and manufacturers want to partner with us by providing their services or their products. So technologies such as digitization, such as electrification, and also automation. And we want to implement those from the start from the very beginning of the project.
The just transition approach to mining is also on the cards for Botswana Oil, which is eagle's eye on tapping into the energy value chains and ensuring optimized energy security.
The import mandate is about Botswana Oil importing the majority of the country's fuel requirements so that we can consolidate those volumes, go out to market, to bigger suppliers and refineries, to be able to get far better prices for the economy of Botswana, and hopefully be able to pass these benefits not only to the consumer, but reinvest the proceeds into the economy and assist government with the much needed economic diversification and revenue streams. So from 1st April, we'll import 90% of the country's consumption, and we will sell to the oil marketing market in Botswana, who will then sell to their commercial customers.
Botswana Ash is also a critical player in the mining value chain and sees its valuable contribution to the ultimate goal of sustainability.
But to us, the most important disruption is that economies are going to become more cyclic. Green technology is going to become prominent. And fortunately for us, our main product, soda ash, is very much an energy product. It has always been, lowering the consumption of energy in a whole lot of processes, including mining processes. So those two elements, where economies will become greener and mining would have a more pronounced social impact on Africa. Stand out for me.
The Mining Indaba theme set the tone for Africa to not only imagine a prosperous future, but to take bold and intentional steps towards redefining it through leveraging its own power and to radically transform its mining for future generations. Utsidile Ungabitsi, BTV News, Cape Town, South Africa.
The Ministry of Health, in partnership with non-governmental organization Kids Operating Room, has launched a 5-year children's surgery action plan focused on transforming surgical care for children in the country. When speaking at the launch, the Deputy Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, Dr. Tshepo Machacha, said the collaboration strengthens one of the nation's key priorities of promoting the health sector. Among Botswana reports.
The Ministry of Health's efforts of strengthening and promoting proper health and wellness for Botswana continues to come to light in many areas, like the ministry collaborating with other entities such as UK-based Kids Operating Room. The plan involves equipping children's theatre rooms, personnel conducting the surgeries, as well as the equipment used at the country-leading hospitals such as Princess Marina here in Gaborone and Nyangagwe in Francistown.
Creating children's centers of excellence at Princess Marina and Nyangagwe Hospital in Francistown, as we will be doing, is a great development in our healthcare sector. Both of these centers will be capable of providing world-class care to local children and will comprise a network of highly skilled teams across the country. The action plan for children's surgery will therefore bring with a great improvement in care across all our facilities.
Botswana becomes one of the beneficiaries of this stellar initiative, which brings along a world-class network of highly skilled teams.
We are proud that hospitals are now selected for us through vitally important projects like this one. Local surgeons identifying where they believe care should be developed. Anaesthetists, nurses, and biomedical engineers all involved in designing national surgical plans. And patients too. This national plan for Botswana sets a new benchmark for high quality, impactful planning for the entire continent of Africa.
We need to look after our youngsters, we need to look after our children, because they are the future. If we don't look after them, what is the future going to look like? It's easy to think that the best way to do it is to fly doctors in from abroad. I've seen it happen within Botswana, which I think does nothing for the long-term development of fully functioning health system here in Botswana.
The establishment of pediatric-friendly services will ensure that all children with conditions requiring surgery in the country are diagnosed on time and get procedures done in timely manner regardless of where they are. This will again strengthen the ministry's efforts to reduce under 5 child mortality. BTV News, Gaborone.
The revised criteria for Batlokwa women married outside Tlukweng to be allocated plots using the 60-40 criteria will soon be implemented. This was confirmed by the chairman of Tlukweng Land Board, Mr. Elijah Katsi, during an interview with BTV News. Yenge Malimoyo and Disang Hotswakhosi.
This revision is based on the outcry of some Tlukweng women who got married outside the village but were then subsequently informed that could possibly affect the way they are allocated land. This issue is being addressed to ensure these women get their fair share of their native land.
Yaanong mme ka criteria ne se tse dirilwe e be le gore e tswela ntse jalo mme ba ne ba ipuela bana ba Batlokwa ba ipuela go bogosing ba ipuela go land boteng e ne le sello hela se se ne se le bogale thata ba bangwe ba se gore ga le ko United Nations tota mme ka e le gore re teletse mokgatlo e leng gore wa reetsa gape ke on behalf of Botswana ra bo re reetsa re be re thulanya ditlhogo le boeteledipele re re e ka re kganye yanong e bokete mme ga gona jaaka re ka e lebelela gape ka gore bone ba fila gore ba kgapetse ko ntle mme ba na le tshwanelo ya gore madi a botlokwa ba na le one so ka tsela ntseng yalo go daganiwa ha batshe ke gakolgala last year ka August re na ra kopana le bogogi ra be re lebella yone criteria ya rona mme ra be re fitlhella mo goreng a yone category e ne ipeletsa gore ba tseng mo teng.
However, since the commencement of this criteria in 2015 to allow for every Motswana to have land in areas of their choice, some benefited from this initiative.
ke motokwa so re thopilwe pele re le batokwa gore re beilwe lehatshe ka kwa motokweng
ke itumeletse go bo ke beilwe setsha ke applyile ka 2015 ke beilwe 2024 January go rekisa setsha ga ke bone go le botlhokwa mo go kalo ka gore la rekisa go tswang go a rekisiwa go tswang ha gona ha o nang teng bontsi ba bone ba reka le tsone dikoloi tse di helanyala mo tseleng go sena sepe sa o ikayang ka sone mo botshelong.
The chairperson urged the public to refrain from selling lands after plot allocation, as land is a scarce commodity and tangible heritage that can be passed on from generation to generation. Inge Malimoyo, BTV News, Tlokweng.
The Principal Labour Officer at the Ministry of Labour and Home Affairs, Ms. Laone Libero, says anyone paying their domestic worker less than the stipulated minimum wage of 1,500 pula is in contravention of the law. Ms. Libero says the minimum wage for domestic workers has been increased to 1,500 pula as of the 1st of February 2024.
Domestic workers, such as maids and farm employees, are tasked with caring for people's families, homes, livestock, and nurturing and raising children of their employers, who also go to work and go about their everyday lives. It is against this backdrop that the Ministry of Labour and Home Affairs has put regulations in place to include domestic workers in minimum wage and overtime dispensations, along with other rights they are entitled to.
From the 1st of February, Maria now is 1.5 now. It's American, it's 60 hours per week. Yeah, domestic workers, equally what is 60 hours per week.
The minimum wage for domestic workers is now 1,500. We disregard personal agreements when it comes to labor rights. You have to pay them accordingly.
800
A day off per week is a necessity for domestic workers.
And then public holidays, they are only entitled to 4.
Domestic workers are entitled to 4 holidays, being Christmas, New Year, Independence and Easter's, and they are paid double if they happen to work during these holidays.
September, Good Friday. So America had Bereka on these 4 paid public holidays. The hours are the Berekan, they are double. Don't do times 2 for those hours.
These employees are also entitled to severance pay when they resign from work or are laid off.
Severance benefit after every 6 months. After 5 years.
Severance pay is paid after every 5 years. Also note that as long as a domestic worker has worked for 1 month or more, they are entitled to severance pay.
Qualify for severance benefit.
Ms. Lepero calls upon domestic workers and their employers to visit the nearest labor offices to know more about domestic employees' rights. BTV News, Tsabong.
The Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development and Palms for Life organization have partnered to support the youth by cultivating the entrepreneurship spirit. When handing out certificates to the Mr. and Miss RADP contestants during a recent graduation ceremony in Gaborone, Assistant Minister Talita Monnakgotla encouraged contestants to be daring and hardworking when it comes to implementing their businesses. Refilwe Mutube and Disang Khotsakhosi.
Assistant Minister Monnakgotla applauded Palms for Life as the main sponsor for helping the Mr. and Miss RADP contestants in successfully completing a 2-week business and entrepreneurship training. The 2-week program, that is also meant to promote self-growth and development, covered all the 34 young contestants from various areas of Botswana.
The purpose of this training is primarily to bring about change. The idea is to equip with basic knowledge on starting and running a successful business.
It is with sincere gratitude that we express our happiness towards the Ministry of Local Government and all the stakeholders that were involved in providing this mentorship program. We were equipped with necessary business skills that will enable us to kickstart our ideas.
National Coordinator for Palms for Life Chief Sponsor Ms. Dorothy Okerich also pledged to continue partnering with the government as well as different stakeholders in bringing long-lasting changes by giving supporting programs in areas of education, access to food, water and sanitation, all in a mission to eradicate poverty.
So the Palms for Life social development program is aimed at bringing these programs to these communities where they can participate and have a significant impact on their lives. This is our second year in collaboration with the Ministry of Local Government and the Mr. and Miss RADP pageant. We did not hesitate to come on board to provide yet another seed funding for the 6 winners so that they too can go ahead and start their own businesses.
We saw it fit IED to come up with a program that could equip the youth with skills on how to launch a business idea, on how to generate a business idea, validate it, and like I've said, actually launch. So the course that the participants have been undergoing for the past 2 weeks essentially was to help them to generate their ideas and to launch them.
By far, the ministry has managed to register 6 operational businesses with the aid of Institute of Entrepreneurial Development. Rifilo Mutube, BTV News, Gaborone.
The Mr. Botswana contest has unveiled 17 hopefuls in Maung who will vie for the title later this year. According to the Mr. Botswana Company Director, Ms. Lekezani Mukoloba, this initiative is aimed at producing well-rounded young men who are inspired to serve their communities. Mareta Kaisara with more.
The challenge to find ways to empower the boy child has been taken up by the Mr. Botswana Beauty Pageant, using this platform to motivate the boy child to pursue his dreams. Ms. Mukuluba emphasized that Mr. Botswana Pageant can create opportunities steered towards empowering a boy child.
Giving a girl child doesn't mean I give you a bag. He was helping a sister. He was helping a friend. Yes. And we want to come up with men who understand themselves, men who can stand and advocate for other men.
So Mr. Botswana, we encouraged her, at least we are trying something new. So let us uplift our young brothers. That is why Rona Rataka Angela, no, let us sponsor them for school. Instead of getting a madi, but at least scholarship is something which is going to benefit him on the long run.
This initiative comes highly commended, with companies being urged to come on board as the pageantry has the potential to empower and mold a boy child into a responsible citizen.
Find a way to get underborn. Le bona gore le thusa gore Mr. Botswana le tshweletse. Ska ra ba mo yota ba winne he. Rote. You've got go khwa yona le di companies tsa safari tse dintsi mo go maswe. Wena o Mr. RIDP. Use that advantage o bue le batho ba le ba thuse Mr. Botswana. Dira gore o dire yalo hala gara gore Mr. Botswana go godimo ya la thata.
Young males aged between 18 and 35 participated in the Mr. Botswana pageantry auditions across the country last year. Those who made the cut will be going head-to-head at the grand finale, which is slated for later this year, at a venue to be announced. Mareta Kaisara, BTV News, Maun.
Jose Ronkwe is standing by to give us the the latest in sports. Jose.
Oh yes, good evening, Khamsa. How are you?
I'm well. How are you, ma'am?
I'm well. I can see, the beautiful smile. It's all wonderful indeed. And it's a beautiful weather outside.
Ma'am, please proceed.
I know it's Mr. Botswana. We will see more of Mr. Botswana as the year goes on. And of course, I hope they will represent us very well. I know there is Mr. World, so we'll get to hear more about that. Thank you, Khomso, and greetings to you all. As she has already mentioned, I'm Khosronke, bringing to you Botswana Tonight Sports News. And with that, let's get straight into it and start with Orange FA Cup updates. The Cup, which is on its 5th edition, kicks off this weekend with the round of last 48 fixtures, starting with action in the Northern Zone. 8 matches will be played at various venues featuring clubs which campaign in the National First Division North and Division 1 North Leagues. BTV Sport News reporter Hubonone Sehedi has more.
First Division North League sides, Sankoyo Beachbucks and Santa Green headline the weekend's fixtures as they meet in a water encounter at Maun Sports Complex. Both sides are currently level on points in the log standings after collecting 6 points from 12 matches. Mahalape-based outfit Santa Green occupies 6th spot, while Sankoyo Bush is at position 7. Last weekend, Santa Green downed Zabotle FC of Sorowe 1-0, while Nkurungu also edged out Kasane-based club Mbalakalungu 1-0. In other Orange FA Cup last 48 fixtures, Makungulipeswa FC hosts City Kings, Madinare Aces will be battling with Dafili Makwengo Sporting Club Tafik, Pilko United and Chadibe FC tussle it out in Pilko United FC ground, while Kazungula Young Fighters will be up against Motlakase Power Dynamos. 3 matches are scheduled on Sunday. Zabotle FC head to Letlakan to take on Desert Buffaloes. Former top flight campaigners MR Highlanders travel to Shoshone to lock horns with Shoshone United FC, while at Kasane Prisons ground it be a battle of First Division North clubs Mbalakalungu and Calendar Stars. Kobanone Sehedi, BTV Sport, Gaborone.
And now into motorsports. FIA Africa Vice President Simon Mudisaiman says he's impressed with the commitment rendered by the parents of the 3 national team go-karting riders who will go and represent the country at the Africa Cup go-karting challenge slated for South Africa next week, adding that the effort made by parents really go a long way in the grassroots development of young talent across all sporting codes. Katla Khakule has more details.
Modisaimang highlighted that motorsport disciplines needs one to put in more efforts in grassroots development, as this is important in retaining riders and drivers in a sport that demands a lot of resources. However, Modisaimang highlighted that the rewards can be handsome, as this was recently displayed by a historic performance of Ross Branch at the 2024 Dakar Rally, someone who started the sport from a tender age through the support of his parents.
Just to give an example what we can benefit out of sport. Ross is a person that has put effort to himself, and as a result, he was able to bring a trophy to the country. So this is something that if we do sports quite well, we will be able to produce young Botswana who represent us in the World Championship of Go-Kart.
The national go-kart team coach says they had enough time to prepare for the continental competition, and he is fairly confident that his team will deliver in Johannesburg. The national team is made of Hamza Ahmad, Ofensa Khosane, and Mohamed Ahmad, who were selected last year.
Distance of the one lap is almost 800 meters, so it's an amazing experience for the boys. I'm very excited for the three youngsters, Khosi, Hamza, and Mohammed, who will be competing and representing for Botswana.
I'm hoping to, get a podium and really show that Botswana has races that can really do good things, and we're trying to obviously get African people into Formula One. So hopefully someone from Botswana can go there.
I'm pretty confident. We've been training a lot, and we've mostly been doing time trials to see if we get faster. And we've been practicing mostly in South Africa because the tracks there are bigger. And I'm pretty confident. Hopefully we can get either third, second, or first.
The three young drivers will head to Johannesburg next week for the African Cup Go-Karting Challenge, which will be held from the 15th to the 17th of February. The competition will also be used to qualify for the FIA Go-Karting World Championships to be held in Italy in October. Katlaho Kakole, BTV Sport, Gaborone.
And now wrapping up the Botswana Tonight sports news. Botswana was knocked out of the Under-17 World Cup qualifiers today after being beaten by Burundi 6-1 on aggregate. Burundi won the first leg 4-1 before Jacqueline Habuyinelwe girls were defeated 2-0 in the second leg at National Stadium to ensure that Burundi goes through to third round to face Djibouti. Let's take a look at the match highlights.
Akimana Oromela Pele Ana Matadiri Anstopasa Burundi Elebanosa Yanka Nele Ele Kharajana Achalo Amperebone into the 18 box Abaka Hola Moto Petsa Hutala Noyabubedi Estopasa Burundi.
First of all, 20 minutes before, Botswana team was coming with a lot of energy, but for us, we was taking our confidence, and because we know that Botswana's team, their playing is to not down, but to so even if we was winning, we have a big way to move on. And then we're going to also to prepare.
Parce que plus on gagne, plus on va dans les difficultés.
More we win, more we have a difficulty.
Yes, we lost and we're out of the competition. But I would like to just state that Burundi was a good team. Technically, tactically, they were good. But looking at our girls, I will say I'm happy with their performance. There has been some progress in how they performed as compared to when we started this on Tuesday. I mean, like on Tuesday, you could see that at most times Burundi was on our half, but this time around we could also try and go onto their half to try and score goals. We saw our girls trying their best to get goals during the very first, let me say, 15 to 20 minutes of the first half, but it was unfortunate that we could not convert.
And that is all that we had for you from Botswana Tonight Sports Desk. Until we meet tomorrow, have a blessed night. Now let me bring it back to Khomutso to give you the headlines of tonight. Khomutso.
Thank you so much, Joseho. Have yourself a fantastic evening. It's a rainy night in Gaborone tonight.
Oh, yes. It's raining.
I don't know if it's raining in other parts of Gaborone, but it's certainly raining well
here. Here in Gaborone, it's raining. It's a beautiful weather. I hope even we will have a beautiful sleep in there because we have been experiencing harsh weather conditions indeed.
Thank you so much. Let's meet again some other time.
Yes, in French they say...
have yourself a fantastic weekend. That was
you.
Hongwe giving us the latest in sports. Let's take a final look at stories leading the way this evening. The proposed use of identity cards to cross borders between Botswana and Zimbabwe to benefit both nations. The global demand for critical minerals has presented Africa with endless opportunities to optimize value in their exploration and production. And in football, the Orange FA Cup 5th edition kicks off this weekend with action from the Northern Zone. That's all that we had for you in our news bulletin this evening. BTV News, Ikanya Rona, #BW Mindset Change. Up next is the weather update.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's weather forecast brought to you by Elite. Let's take a look at the rainfall amount recorded this morning. Mokobian Primary School 18 millimeters, Mutla Primary School 10 millimeters, Tumasera Khotla 9 millimeters, Chadibe Primary School 7 millimeters, Pandamatenga Metrical Station 4 millimeters, Lepepe Metrical Station 2 millimeters, Mokane Primary School 1 millimeter. Tomorrow, expecting partly cloudy conditions over the entire country, possibility of scattered thunderstorms over southern, southeast, Gauteng, Kwening, and southern central. Also expecting isolated thunderstorms except Chobe district. In the morning, we're expecting hot temperatures over the entire country between 21 and 24 degrees Celsius. In the afternoon, expecting extremely hot temperatures over Kalahari and Gamilen districts between 39 and 40 degrees Celsius. Also expecting very hot temperatures ranging between 36 and 38 degrees Celsius. As for Sunday, cloudy conditions with possibility of isolated thunderstorms expected countrywide with warm temperatures over southern, southeast, Gauteng, Kwening, southern, central, and northeast. Also expecting very hot temperatures. Fresh to strong winds expected over most parts of the country on Sunday. Therefore, the public is advised to take necessary precautions. That's the weather forecast. Good night.
The mining indaba in Cape Town, South Africa, saw the participation of key players from Botswana's minerals and energy value chains. The just transition approach to mining is also on the cards for Botswana Oil, which is Eagle's eye on tapping into the energy value chains and ensuring optimized energy security. Usidile Unkabetse caught on with the CEO of Botswana Oil on the sidelines of the mining indaba.